Welcome to part 2 of the breakdown review on episode 4 of The Acolyte. In this episode, we're going to be examining the visual and cinematography and entertainment value of the episode. Let's get started. My name is Matthew Sava with Binge Watcher. Let's jump right into the video. To recap, in part 1, we looked at the plot and storyline and the character development for episode 4 of The Acolyte. In episode 4 of The Acolyte, we're brought back to present day, where the Jedi are racing to find their next target. The Jedi are heading to a new world as they look to close in on the assassin and bring them in for the murder of the Jedi Masters. Let's start by examining the visual appeal. How does The Acolyte stack up in terms of its production quality in episode 4? Now, the production quality has continued to be good, but not enough. Let's start with the exploration of Kofar. This is the first episode where the audience get to have a closer look at a new world that they've been introduced to from this series. We get right into the crux of things, but they haven't explored it enough. Now, they might do in episode 5 because they'll still be there, but we'll have to see. Now, from what we got to see from the planet itself, it did look good. The production quality was good. They introduced specific creatures, they had a couple of new aliens, but again, they didn't go far enough because it was rushed. And we finally get lightsabers, but this had to be the most disappointing introduction of lightsaber use ever. I would go as far to say that I'd rather them not have any lightsabers in this than what they did in this episode. It was pointless and it was kind of uncalled for. They could have literally just left it to the next episode and leave us without lightsaber battles for a little bit longer. They might as well have done that, because it was literally coming across as if to say, what is the point? And again, they didn't build on it. And it all comes down to the main problem statement, which is not enough, coupled now with rushing through scenes. And I can't stress enough how much I didn't like their rush through all of this episode. It was so annoying and so disappointing to see. It's had a real knock-on effect to the enjoyment of this series now, and they can have the best visuals in the world, but because of the rush, it's thrown a massive blanket over any of the positives. So for the visual appeal section, the score is going to be 3 out of 10. Now let's talk about the cinematography and special effects. How does the camera work and CGI enhance the viewing experience of episode 4? And again, it continues to be good, but not enough. Now there's no new planets in this episode, but they're continuing to build out on Kofar and explore that planet, which is fine. And there isn't anything wrong with doing that. They've done well in terms of introducing all these new planets so far. I think they've done a good job when it comes to that. They've done it naturally and they've done it organically. But they've let themselves down by causing themselves their own problems, because they don't allow for any lingering and building on depth when it comes to these scenes. They keep them short bursts and they don't allow the audience to make a stronger connection in with characters or planets or alien creatures. It's a continued pattern of behavior. Now, they're showing intent by taking us deeper into a planet, and it was great to see that intent behind wanting to take us deeper into Kofar. But I would have liked Disney to take more time with this, and I would have wanted to see a little bit more from this planet. Now, the good thing is, they've managed to fix the CGI from what we saw in the last episode with Elder Jalen through a new character that's introduced into the series, Basil. And Basil is known as a tracker. But the problem with what I've just said is that they shouldn't have had to do that in the first place. The audience shouldn't expect them to have to do that in the first place. Now, for the cinematography and special effects section, this is going to get a score of 4 out of 15. Finally, here's the overall tally for the visual and cinematography of The Acolyte. How does this section rank for episode 4? And this is going to get a 7 overall out of 25. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments section. Make sure to smash a like if you enjoy and subscribe to the channel if you're new. While the impressive visuals set the stage, it's the excitement and intrigue that keep you hooked. Let's delve into the captivating entertainment value of The Acolyte and see how enjoyable episode 4 is overall. Does it keep you engaged from start to finish? Now, I think I've expressed my disappointment in this episode, and I definitely have not been impressed. And with me saying that, I am definitely not entertained with it. It has not kept me hooked. I cannot believe that all roads with Star Wars have led to this moment with the Acolyte series. Again, I know it's not over. I know there are episodes to come. It's only been 4, but they've not laid the groundwork well enough, especially with all of the mistakes that they've made, given the Force Awakens trilogy as one example. It's one thing after another. And what I've said throughout all parts of this episode is that they have rushed things throughout episode 4, and I probably would have stayed engaged if they hadn't rushed things and they dived a little bit deeper into wanting to explore characters and scenes a little bit more. They've let themselves down again, Disney. They've intended to do something and they've just not followed it through. Moving on to my next point, I don't want to labour on too long with this, but finally we've seen lightsabers, and I just mean, like I said before, what is the point? What I don't get is, what is the point in bringing lightsabers into this if they're not going to see it through properly? I don't understand why you bring something as iconic as lightsabers into this finally after we've been waiting, and you bring it in that way. What is the point? Why would you do that? Honestly, just leave it alone. But they continue to make these sorts of errors. There is a scene where we see another alien, and they don't explore it enough. That alien is in it for 1 minute, and then all of a sudden we're moved on to another. You know, it's just like you're putting the audience through all of that just to ruin your fan base. I was thinking about this for a while, and I was thinking, if I was to pin it down to a one-liner on what was going on right now and what Disney have ended up doing, I've narrowed it down to this. It's making the enjoyable unenjoyable. If that could be their slogan, that should be it. If a fan was to create a joke slogan for Disney right now, I would do it like that. Because they're making a reoccurring theme start to present itself here. And it is literally that. There's hype that there's a new Star Wars live action movie or TV series coming out. And then after the first few episodes, we're now in episode 4. But it just goes off a cliff. For the entertainment factor, this section is going to score 4 out of 10. Now let's compare episode 4 of The Acolyte to similar content within the Star Wars universe. How does it stack up against its peers? Well, not very well, that's for sure. Episode 4 follows suit with episode 3 as far as I'm concerned. I said it in the last episode, I'll say it in this episode. It follows suit with The Force Awakens and the Kenobi series. Simple as. And the big thing that everyone needs to start asking now is this arrogance from Disney? Like, honestly, think about it. Businesses right now, I've been to Starbucks, the Little Yellow Door, which is a restaurant, and a few other places here and there, right? Recently, every time I go in, hands down, they have asked me to fill in feedback forms and they want to hear my feedback. Disney have had their hands on Star Wars for God knows how many years, and they've continued to get things wrong. At what point will they then decide? I mean, they're across all of the social media channels. Why not tap into those and really have a deep dive into what the fans and the critics are saying? Because it's like they don't want to accept or acknowledge any feedback. And if that is the case, then it's arrogance. And if they are listening to feedback, then they've got the wrong people looking after their company. Because honestly, I am struggling to try and understand how they continue to get things wrong. Like I said, I went into this with the hopes that they were going to deliver and this was their time to shine. And boy, how wrong I was. There were loads of fans and groups on social media, posts and all sorts saying, mixed opinions, but the majority landing in the this is going to be rubbish. And now you're seeing it across the board, heavily leaning towards one side of things. And not only that, I am very disappointed with what I'm seeing. For the comparison to similar content section, this scoring out of 5 is 0. Let's also consider the rewatchability and recommendation factor. Would I revisit episode 4 of The Acolyte, and would I recommend it to others? I wouldn't rewatch it, and I certainly wouldn't recommend it. It all comes down to being a missed opportunity, and this episode is definitely that. They could have had a really great episode here, and it would have been their opportunity to really bring this back and connect with the fans. But boy, did they get it wrong. I mean, I thought episode 3 was bad. This was terrible. And it all comes down to whatever intentions they have, actions speak louder than words, and they are not listening. They have rushed this episode. They have clearly not listened. And now when you think from episode 3 it was a long way back, this is a huge mountain for them to climb now. To have to try and come back in episode 5 from this and episode 3, I mean, they've got to produce something that's spectacular. And me personally, I don't think they're going to be able to do it at all. I would go as far to say that they've set a new low for Star Wars. And then it sort of makes you wonder and assume, because now it's sort of like they don't care, so why should we? I went into this in the first episode that I did on episode 1 and 2, really trying to be positive about this, but how wrong I was. They started well, I'll give them that. I thought they did, but episode 3 and now 4 have just been the nail in the coffin. And for the rewatchability and recommendation section, it'll be no surprise that out of 10, this gets a whopping 0. Finally, here's the overall tally for the entertainment value of The Acolyte. How does this section rank for episode 4? Out of 25, this has scored a whopping 4. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments section. Make sure to smash a like if you enjoy and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Assessing the visual and cinematography and the entertainment value, how is the ranking for episode 4 now shaping up? So a combination of the visual and cinematography and the entertainment value. Out of 50, The Acolyte episode 4 has scored 11. As we wrap up episode 4 of The Acolyte, it's time to look ahead. Make sure to tune into part 3 as we reveal the binge watching ranking, compare what the review sites are saying, and look into what the audience is saying about episode 4 of The Acolyte. Don't forget to smash a like if you enjoyed, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and follow us on social media channels to stay up to date with the latest content, with the link in my bio. See you next time.